Right, hello there my dear chums, welcome to the Adam Clery Football Channel. Now as you know, normally when there is a big Sunday fixture in His Majesty's rough and tumble Barclaycard Premier League, we break down the whole match for you, don't we? But to be honest, I'll just move my cup of tea, this entire game was pretty much just about Jeremy Doku. So yes, we will be talking about how Man City set up to best utilise him, why Liverpool specifically really struggled with that, but primarily just about him, because this might well be the season he goes from like here to whoosh. And I'm just going to get this out of the way right at the start. You may have seen we have been nominated somehow for a Football Supporters Association Award for Best Social Media. I think we've got as much chance of winning that as Tony Adams did of winning Strictly, but it would be really funny, so we might as well at least try. So if you've ever enjoyed the channel, you like what we do here, or you just really like filling out digital forms, the link is in the description. We will be at the ceremony having a nice time, so please vote. Thank you. All right, so Manchester City have done a lot of different things tactically this season as part of a quote-unquote rebuild year. We saw John Stones pushing back into midfield the other night, exactly like he was doing the year they won the Champions League, but they have also had, if we can remember back that far, their first ever prison yard shithouse low block. So Pep Guardiola has been far more malleable this year. Is that the right word? What does malleable mean? To be pressed into shape without breaking or easily influenced. That is not the word I meant. The word I meant was like adaptable, flexible. And against Liverpool, that adaptability and flexibility was specifically designed to get Jeremy Doku off the wing into these more central or half space areas with the ball. And the main way they achieved this was by using the fullbacks. If you look at this still here, you will notice both Doku and Shirky, who were supposed to be the wide players, incredibly central. And as I'm sure you know, historically with Manchester City, they tend to be a team who want their wide players to be the ones to give them the width. That way they then stretch the opposition back line all the way across the field. And the idea being that by doing that, it gives space for your number 8s to attack these sort of wider areas. It dares the opposition to leave Haaland 1v1 with a defender who he will likely bully. It then lets you invert one or both of your fullbacks into the middle of the pitch. Regardless of what it's for, it has been a core idea of Pep Guardiola's for a number of years. Your wide players give you the width, your central players attack the central areas. So just to go back to this still, what the deuce? Well, City were actually pretty clever with the way they used their fullbacks in this game, because with Doku and Shirky sort of coming more into these central areas, it was they who provided the width, pretty safe in the knowledge that neither Salah nor Wirtz were going to run all the way back into their own third with them. But what was really clever is that I would describe the way they did this as sort of situational. Sometimes they kept them low to make space down the flank so that Doku and Shirky could get on the ball wide and isolate Bradley and Robertson, but sometimes they pushed them right the way up the pitch to pin the fullbacks and let the wide players come into the middle. And I think that's a really good way to get at Liverpool's 4-2-4 press that they do, because it means neither the wide players, either the fullbacks or the attackers, know whether they should be dropping off, when they should be jumping, who they should necessarily be going with. And you could see in those opening minutes, they didn't have a clue what to do. But you can see here, O'Reilly is wide, but he's deep, and Doku is central. And maybe I'm slightly overanalyzing this, right? Shock, but I think you can see in Conor Bradley's body language that he is deeply concerned. He obviously wants to stick with Doku and put a bit of pressure on him if he receives the ball, but he won't have been expecting that to do that, he was going to have to go into the midfield line and quite literally into Ryan Gravenberch's space. But he also knows if he follows him anywhere, he's leaving this wide area wide open if O'Reilly decides to go, which, of course, he then does. Now, City fire it into Doku, and you shouldn't, in that sort of situation, really be able to get turned in that area of a pitch against a team who are pressing you like this. Like, your marker should be tight enough that he can force you backwards, but because of O'Reilly, Bradley cannot go any further with him, and it just takes a few moments of indecision for them to pass him off to Gravenberch, who, let's be fair here, when he was having his ready break this morning, dreaming of the game he was going to have, he was not thinking he was going to be spending it chasing wingers around the inside of the pitch. Which, I mean, you can tell because a few minutes later, when O'Reilly gets down the line past Bradley and his cross gets cut out, he is just not alive at all to the danger of Doku in this area of the pitch. He nips in, he gets into the box, he jumps between two players, and nearly makes something out of it. And that, my friends, is what we call a warning sign, and Liverpool simply did not heed it. And the thing is, I know Doku doesn't necessarily have a major impact in the first two goals, but this idea of overloading Liverpool in the centre with players whose assigned markers were very unlikely to follow them in there is something Pep's been playing around with this season. They drift into these areas on top of McAllister and Gravenberch, and given they're such good dribblers and so good in tight areas, they would try to work a way out of there. And if they couldn't do that, they're then backed up by the two players they should have originally been marking. And it meant that Liverpool spent most of the game with a 3v2 disadvantage, like you can see here, in central areas, sometimes even a 4v2 disadvantage. And Slot himself said in the press conference, we didn't know what to do with that. That's where they beat us. But anyway, yes, Jeremy Doku, you can see from his heat map in this game that, yes, of course, he is on the touchline. He is getting it Bradley down the outside, but he's also spending way more time than we are used to seeing in this half space here. And I would like to say officially on the record right now for you and any other witnesses, this should not be a one-off. He's always had that threat of going around the outside of the fullback, and that, combined with how City usually like their wide players to hold the width, mean that he is very hard to deal with, but quite easy to prepare for. But this, however, and some of the stuff we're going to show you he did with this is unpredictable, and that is what can take him into that next bracket of footballer, that elite category, as people like to say. Like, these are his take-ons from this match. There were 7 successful ones across the 90 minutes, and that's great. Connor Bradley, as we see quite regularly, is an excellent 1v1 defender, so to be winning that many when you're playing in the same area of the pitch as he is really good. But it wasn't just that he had the beating of his marker in the first half, it was that in the second, when Slot realised what was going on and instructed Ryan Gravenberch to just go out into that area a little bit more, to double up on him when he could, he was still winning those take-ons, except now they were 2v1s instead of 1v1s. Like, just honestly watch here. When stuff like this is happening, then as a manager, there is almost nothing you can do about it. Like, you have assigned the right player to mark them. You have given them additional help when that isn't working. Like, your only real option now is to just sit there and go, oh, I hope that doesn't happen again. And don't get me wrong, we've seen him do this to loads of teams while he's been at City, but what we hadn't really seen until this game, and this was a graph very helpfully posted by Opta on their Twitter account, right? These are all his carries, his runs with the ball. Now, obviously, you got a big cluster in the area you would expect. That's when he's getting a Connor Bradley. But just look at how many of these either start or finish in this half space, or even more central than that. That's what we never normally see him doing. Like, this is the sort of work you get from an Eze, for example, or Cole Palmer when he starts out wide, and it impacts a game so much more. Like here, if you are defending Jeremy Doku, you are convinced he is going down the outside of you because that is where the space is. He'll get down the byline, he'll cross it in for Haaland, but instead, he feints back inside and is so close to slipping Foden in on goal. Interesting. Likewise here, if you are Connor Bradley, you know he's going to attack you out this way, out wide, but if you look, Nico O'Reilly here is steaming up beside Doku, and he's actually going to draw all these players towards him. Like, genuinely, there are 4 men here, all thinking he's the only danger, and then, just when they think they've got him, he slips in his pal down the outside, who he has created all this space for. And if his boots were, I would guess, 3, maybe 4 sizes bigger, this is a fantastic one too, and he gets a goal. And just to make sure I'm really getting this point across, by the way, I'm not saying Jeremy Doku was so good in this game purely because he was attacking these central areas. He was still doing his usual job. He was spending time on the touchline, getting it Bradley in wide areas, and as the game went on, he increasingly had the beating of him there as well. And that is what made it such a good performance, because you didn't know exactly in what way he was going to attack Liverpool. He just kept ripping them apart. But of course, thankfully, he does round off this whole performance with an absolutely brilliant goal. Like, this is really direct from City. It's a brilliant ball into the space, but it's Nico O'Reilly again who is holding the width. He's the outball down this side, and that means Doku can again stay central where he can better impact the game, and boy does he. Liverpool get back in, and because he's central now, puts him 1v1 with Konate, who, despite his many qualities, is probably not the player you want to be isolated facing up a tricky winger who's coming in onto his good foot. That already looks bad. Which is not to say it's all cut and dry at this point, by the way. If you look at the exact moment he strikes that ball, Liverpool have thrown bodies at that situation. They do nearly stop him doing it, and what he does from here has to be absolutely perfect in order for this to happen, which it is and then does. Like, I can stand here all day and praise Pep Guardiola for the way he set Man City up, how that enabled Jeremy Doku to flourish against this Liverpool side, but he still had to go out there and do things, do incredibly difficult things, do things that very few players can do, and things that maybe start to put him in that conversation. You know the one. It's just a really, really special goal coming at the end of a really special performance. Which leads me, my very good friends, to quite possibly the most important point we can make about Jeremy Doku, because I think this performance will have surprised a number of people. We knew he was good, but not so good he was going to run big games like this. And that's because at 23 years old now, I think it would be easy for people to assume they knew exactly what his level is. They could see the trajectory. And most players at the very, very top of the game now, you've sort of known about, you've had these expectations of since they were like 17. Saka, Yamal, Bellingham, Mbappe, Pedri, even Haaland was starting his 41 goals in 41 games Bundesliga season when he was like 19 or 20. Like, the players these players are now, we have expected them to be for years. And while Doku's obviously always been regarded as potentially a really good player, he's never quite been in that conversation, has he? But the thing is, right, if this is late blooming, that actually would make a lot of sense if you look at his career. You will quite often hear people talking about players as feeling a lot older than they really are, purely because of the amount of minutes they've already played. And what people mean by that is if you look at your Bellinghams, your Sakas and your Mbappes, and you compare them to, like, for example, your Messis and your Ronaldos, they've played so much more football at similar ages. Like this graph here that I dug out of a 3-year-old Reddit thread, so don't ever say I'm not putting the hours in, right? Shows the best players now are usually playing 2 or 3 times the number of minutes by their 20th birthday that the best players to ever do it had or did. Which is absolutely mad. Isn't it? Like, Jude Bellingham had played by the age of 20 nearly 4 times as many top-level, physically demanding, intense minutes of football as Lionel Messi had, which is wild and just not even remotely sustainable, but it does explain why we think of these players as already being established at the very top level at much younger ages. But then you've got Jeremy Doku, who, don't get me wrong, I am not putting in the Messi or Ronaldo category, or even really the Bellingham or the Saka category just yet. But at 23 years old, he would not even be at the top of this graph now. He has, in fact, only just this season gone past the 13,000 minutes mark. Comparable to other players, he has had a very gentle, very well-managed early part of his career, and he's now entering a period of his physical peak just as the team he plays for seem to have found a really good role for him. And it is not, my friends, hyperbole to say that those are the perfect foundations for developing into one of the most exciting and important players in world football. Like, when he was younger, he got the hype, but he did not get the minutes to really develop. But now he is getting those minutes, so maybe it's time he also got the hype. So yes, there you go. That is how Jeremy Doku sort of single-handedly managed to beat Liverpool. And great news, everyone! It's the international break, so I haven't got a clue what else we're going to talk about this week. Which, of course, does mean we'll be having another members vote on a video you would like to see. So maybe like Tuesday or Wednesday. Keep an eye out for it. We will do a community post for everybody asking for some video suggestions. The most interesting ones are the ones that just get like loads of upvotes and people seem excited by. That will go into a poll for our members who will vote on which one they want to see. We just did it with Coventry, of all teams. I thought that would be a Man United video, but everyone was like, no, I want to hear what Super Frank is doing. That is the power you all wield. Thus, if you would like to become a member, there will be information in the description about exactly how you do that. And it's a good time to do so because this Friday we'll be having another members live stream. Myself and producer Archie in the very nice podcast studio next door. With the 4K cameras, we will have several tactical talking points, but it is your chance to get involved in a video. You can contribute. The chat is live. You can ask us stuff. You can suggest things to talk about. It's very fun. They're like an hour long every Friday, and I really like doing them. So join. Pick videos. Join in with videos. It's the best value membership you can buy in football, in my opinion. And you know the rest. You can get me across all the social medias at Adam Clery, CLERY. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We have a nice little target goal for that by the end of the year. That was just so close to actually getting. That would make me really happy. And just to remind you, the most ludicrous thing in the world, we are nominated against all these other incredibly amazing creators. So if you want to vote for us, that would be absolutely fantastic. But until next time, I don't know what that's going to be about. Wednesday, probably. I'll see you then. Bye. Love you.